All right, so you walk up to the rear of this structure, and we need to get the back door open. So as we walk up to this door and we size it up, we know it's a metal door in a metal frame, and it's an outward swinging door at the rear. So we can tell very quickly that this door has some additional reinforcements to it. So we have bolts at the top on both sides. We have bolts at the bottom on both sides, and they've also put a steel tread plate that's bolted to the door that's kind of protecting the gap in the door at the jamb. So quickly we know that we have more than just a conventional forcible entry with driving our irons in there and getting the door open. But the one thing we got to kind of think about is, at this point, we don't know what's engaged. We don't know if all of these are actually in place, or if they're just counting on the deadbolt at this time to hold the door shut, depending on what they did at night when they left, or even during the day. So a quick thing we probably could do, even with this tread plate on here, is to drive our adze in, try to gap it as much as we can, and then pry back on it and just see if the door doesn't flex at all here, doesn't flex at all there, the deadbolt's holding. Maybe we can get that spread just enough to see where the deadbolt is. But if there's no movement at all, then that's probably indicating to us that these are indeed in place and they're locked, holding the door into the jamb on both sides. We don't know about these yet, but if those are engaged, we could probably assume pretty well that those are engaged as well. So as far as attacking the door, we're pretty sure that these are engaged because of what we just learned. We come in with our saw. These are on the tread plate, so what we're going to do on these is come in with our saw and pretty much cut the head off. This one we could probably get behind. This one we may have to come from a different angle, turn our saw around, come in from this direction to get these, but it's going to take a lot of time if we try to start cutting here and here to get behind that bolt head and cut it. We're just going to shear those off with our saw. The ones on the other side, we can quickly, this metal door, we're just going to angle in, we're going to let our blade penetrate into the door, and then we're going to cut these bolt heads off behind. So instead of shearing them off, we can actually just plunge and cut the bolt heads off where the shaft goes through. Same with the rest of them. So the ones on the tread plate are going to give us a little maybe not more difficulty, just a different tactic as far as how we're going to position our saw. Deadbolt, we can attack the deadbolt with a couple real quick through the lock mechanism or tactics if we want to, but we're probably just, since we're here with our tools, we're going to utilize our conventional forcible entry. Once again, with the amount of spreaders and cutters that are on scenes now, with the extrication ladders and the rescue companies on the scene, when we come to the rear of this building, we should bring no less than our forcible entry tools, or a set of irons, a steel hook, and a saw. So if that's going to take all of us carrying equipment up to the rear of this building, that's what we're going to do. And then I would call for an additional saw and a spreader. So if we can get a spreader off one of the extrication ladders, a battery powered spreader, we get that back here. We gap this enough to where we can pry back with our Halligan and wedge it to the point where we can come in with our jaw tips and get deep enough in here. Then we could probably blow all of these out without having to even attack the bolt heads. So your complement of tools may grow, and it should grow, if you walk up and you know that you've got a door that's this reinforced. So if we can get our tools in there, then this is what we're going to be dealing with. So something we couldn't see from the outside was they have an additional drop bar that goes on the inside. So it's not screwed in, it's spot welded in. There's no indication of that from the outside at all. So that'd be something else that we could see as we started to force the door open. So a couple different decisions you're going to have to make. If we look at this side, we've got a locking mechanism, locking mechanism, locking mechanism. On this side, we have two. So could we go to the hinge side and cut? Possibly. That may be quicker. Cutting hinges takes a little time, but if we're just cutting in the correct spots on these hinges, and all three of them, then we can pry out. Even up here, if we can get our saw blade in here and cut, because we know this is probably a slide lock that's going to slide over and go into the jamb. So by going here and cutting through, you may be able to cut the shaft of that lock and eliminate it and not have to do these four. So you got to make some decisions, and I think one of the biggest parts of anything that we do, if we start doing this and the saw's binding up and it's just not going very well, then abandon that and go to another one. So if we have 2 or 3 ways of figuring out how we're going to get in this door, one that doesn't work, we immediately transfer to the second one. And sometimes it takes a combination of 2 or 3 different ways just to accomplish a task, whether it's forcing a door, cutting a roof, or whatever it may be. So even on this, if I came in with my saw and I kind of cut this open a little bit, which would get me closer to the jamb to where I could get in, make a quick cut, bend this out of the way. Now I see where my door here attaches here, and that eliminates this piece very quickly. It's not going to take you very long to cut that and pry that out of the way to give me that spot right above the lock, or right below the lock, that I can get my adze in and do our prying. So a lot of decisions, a lot of options that are open to us to try to get in this door. The big surprise when we opened this one up was that drop bar, and that drop bar actually connects to this. So the bar drops in, comes across this way, and ties into this right here. So when that's in place, it's gonna give us some resistance. Once this is all out of there, then that's really not going to give us much resistance at all, because that's the only thing that holds that shut. And even if it was latched somehow, maybe they had this locked, then we have a real quick access point to just come down with their saw, cut 3 points, and that whole section will open up.